archaeological discoveries. It really can be exciting when something takes the world by storm. However, regarding the alleged man-made structures within the Khafre pyramid, I have to be honest and say my initial reaction was skepticism. The claims seemed impossible, even crazy, defying sense and logic. The idea that there are 5 unopened, man-made structures inside the Khafre pyramid, resembling the Great Pyramid's king's chamber and relieving chamber arrangements, is already astonishing. But then it gets even more unbelievable with claims of 8 man-made cylindrical structures extending through the limestone bedrock for a staggering 648 meters each, with their own winding stairways and culminating in 2 large cubic structures with sides measuring around 80 meters. To put that into perspective, the Empire State Building is 443 meters in height, so these alleged structures are much larger, and the cubic structures are nearly twice as tall as the Statue of Liberty. With everything we know about history, ancient architecture, and engineering, my brain instantly dismissed this entire discovery as nonsense. But of course, that's not a valid scientific argument. It was merely my initial opinion. So, this past week, before making a video, I tried my best to understand the science behind it, to assess the credibility of the methods used, and to evaluate the validity of the interpretations. In this video, I'll walk you through my thought process, and also list a number of questions and concerns that I'd like to see resolved and answered in the forthcoming press conference and associated scientific paper. So, let's start with the science. The science behind the discovery is apparently called synthetic aperture radar Doppler tomography, or SAR for short. This technology is, of course, real but rarely used to detect anything below ground, as that is not its primary function. This is a very complex subject, so I'll try to simplify it as much as possible. Synthetic aperture radar is a form of radar used to create 2D and 3D images of objects and landscapes. The radar equipment, carried aboard planes and satellites, sends out pulses of energy and records the amount of energy reflected back after interacting with targets on Earth. From the received data, you can detect things unseen with the naked eye or traditional imaging methods. You get back data showing energy intensity, which can be calibrated to obtain incredibly detailed pictures. This is a real scientific technique, and it is used in archaeology. But can it see through soil and rock? While the technology has been used to find subsurface features, it's mainly in soil and for very shallow targets. It cannot penetrate deep into bedrock. For example, a user on X, formerly Twitter, with the handle The Daddy Shark, said the following: SAR operates by microwave reflections. It measures surface features, not deep underground chambers. Vibration-based imaging from orbit is science fiction. There's no realistic way to reconstruct kilometers-deep structures from pixel motion analysis alone. Even in SAR, the most advanced vibration techniques are used for monitoring earthquakes, not mapping underground cities. He then provides advanced mathematics to show that microwave reflections can only penetrate about 1 meter of limestone bedrock. However, according to researcher Manu Saif, who has also been researching the science behind this new study, the principles should not be dismissed. The scientists are not claiming the radar waves penetrate kilometers of bedrock. They are analyzing micromotions detected at the surface level. To simplify, they are modeling subsurface harmonically resonating voids that project onto the surface above. These voids are detected as surface micromotions. The satellite only detects this motion at the surface, not the resonating void itself. From these surface motions, the location and depth of any void can be reconstructed. Manu Saif believes this scientific method in theory works. However, at this stage, he and others are unsure how to accurately reconstruct the data. The software, which calibrates surface motions into 2D and 3D depth profiles to highlight voids, is the creation of Filippo Beyond, one of the scientists involved in the project. We must currently accept his word that his software and algorithm function as he claims. Why should we accept this? That's a fair question. I would like to see comparative studies where the Sayar micromotion technique demonstrates the absence of structures within bedrock. To be fair, on his website, harmonicsar.com, Beyond presents a comparative study where his method was used on the Gran Sasso mountain in Italy to accurately locate known tunnels and the Gran Sasso Physics Lab, located 1.4 kilometers below ground. Links are provided in the description below. I cannot offer personal comments or critiques on the science, as it is beyond my expertise. At this stage, I urge Beyond to do two things, not for me, but for everyone interested in the pyramids of Egypt. Please release full details of all stages involved in converting open access SAR data into the 3D diagrams. Your software is crucial. To gain acceptance from the wider scientific and archaeological community, complete transparency is necessary, and the findings need independent verification by scientists unaffiliated with the Khafre SAR project. Please provide more comparative studies. I would like to see scan results of another limestone bedrock area in northern Egypt, ideally near Giza, with similar geological formations. This would show how a standard limestone bedrock area appears using your method. The more comparative studies, the better, as they will build trust in your work. I want to see every stage, raw data, calibrated data, 3D modeling, and interpretation, with full transparency on how the method works. That's the science. If these requests are met, I can accept it. Scientific breakthroughs occur regularly, and I am not qualified to judge what is possible. From this point, I accept that the diagrams and data represent the team's findings. However, my concerns and questions now focus on the interpretations of the data. How do you transition from this to this, and from this to this? My main concern is how scientists derive giant man-made spiral stairways, taller than the Empire State Building, and leading to cube-like structures twice the size of the Statue of Liberty. A substantial part of these structures would be below the water table. And not just today, not just in dynastic history and pre-dynastic times, but since the Nile River has been an active river, and certainly throughout the African humid period. Humans do build cylindrical structures going into the bedrock, but this is to reach groundwater. They're called wells, but they don't extend for hundreds more meters. It doesn't make sense why anyone, modern-day Egyptians or mythical Atlanteans, would build a lost city that was partly underwater in what has to be said is very fractured, faulted, caustic, and very poor quality limestone bedrock. Why build a lost city this close to the Nile River? You'd build it kilometers into the desert. If you were clever enough to build this city, you wouldn't be foolish enough to put it next to a river. The team is talking about a lost city and a lost hall of records being discovered, and that the structures are all man-made. This makes no logical sense. It doesn't make sense hydrologically, because a substantial part of the structures are underwater. It doesn't make sense geologically because it's a terrible place to build a lost city in badly weathered limestone right next to the Nile River. It also doesn't make sense historically because it doesn't fit into any historical context, and it doesn't make any engineering sense either. Humans are generally practical people, as seen by archaeological discoveries from every era of history. Such enormous, time-consuming, and pointless structures with a large portion underwater defy logic. And where did all the excavated rock and rubble go? We're talking about rock with the volume of, say, 10 or more Empire State Buildings excavated from the earth. So where is this rock? Because it wasn't used to build the pyramids of Egypt, as we know exactly where the quarries were. Therefore, I wholeheartedly believe the interpretation is completely wrong. I can't see a scenario where it makes realistic sense. That's my opinion for now. Again, I reiterate, I'm no expert, but to me, this leaves only two ways to interpret the data. We're either looking at noise or artifacts in the calibrated scan data, or we're looking at natural geological features. To come out so quickly with the interpretation that we're looking at man-made superstructures going down for hundreds of meters, as the expert opinion of the scientists involved in the study means they must have taken every other option, every other interpretation, into account. So, I now have some more questions for the team, which I'm saying publicly in a video for the record and for transparency with my viewers. Number 1. If you detected man-made structures going down for hundreds of meters into the bedrock, you must have a very clear and detailed understanding of the geology, specifically directly beneath the Khafre pyramid, because you're able to rule out a natural explanation. I know, and so do many others, that the Giza limestone is riddled with faults and fissures. At Giza, there are vast cave networks, all of which are natural. I've seen them leading from the Tomb of the Birds, and these may well extend all the way to the Khafre pyramid. There are also iron-rich mineralized veins running next to and beneath the Khafre pyramid. There are multiple bedding planes from numerous limestone beds, and these beds have lateral changes in features. And because of groundwater movements, I'm sure they've all undergone some weathering. So, can the scientists please explain in detail why their so-called man-made features can't be natural voids like caves, faults, and fissures, and also weathered bedding planes? All such features can appear regular and linear in shape and size as they follow natural zones of weakness, relatively straight tectonic faults, and fissures, and relatively straight bedding planes. Number 2. How come you've been unable to find the Belzoni chamber in your calibrated data, and also the lower chamber, the horizontal passageway, and the 2 descending passages? If you have found them, can we see how they appear in the raw data? We need to see the known structures in the data as an absolute minimum. On your Facebook page, you say the reason is because the horizontal passage and the Belzoni chamber are both embedded in a limestone slab, and that this absorbs the signal. But they're not in a limestone slab, whatever that means. They're just cut into the natural limestone bedrock. Number 3. The Khafre pyramid was muon scanned in the 1960s. This central cone region was scanned. So why doesn't this chamber and its associated relieving chambers appear in the old data? The scientists in the 1960s found absolutely nothing, and they didn't ensure there were strict and accurate controls in their experiments. They didn't ensure the muon scan was effective. If you found chambers, they should have appeared in the muon scans. Number 4. Okay, So, if we say the scans from the 1960s were in fact wrong, well, I'm aware the Khafre pyramid was or is being scanned again, this time by the Scan Pyramids Project, the team who successfully identified 2 voids in the Great Pyramid, and their technique has been ground-truthed, as we've now seen inside the North Face corridor. So, my question is, will you be talking to Scan Pyramids to compare datasets? Number 5. Ground-penetrating radar took place in the 1970s from inside the Belzoni chamber. Scientists were looking beneath the pyramid. The acoustic soundings did discover 2 voids, both likely natural, one being 21 meters below ground and the other being 33 meters. The data was published and is available. So, where are these specific voids in your data? If you can claim to see hundreds of meters below the pyramid, where are these 2 relatively shallow cavities that were found in the 1970s? Furthermore, can you also explain why the team in the 1970s did not see any hint of a giant cylinder or winding walkway? Number 6. We know there are multiple voids and cavities in all the pyramids of Egypt, including the Great Pyramid. The core structure of the pyramids is not perfectly built. The core limestone is not beautifully cut and placed with millimeter precision, and a lot of the stone can be described as rubble, and there are also sand-filled voids and empty voids. So, I want to ask these researchers how they differentiated constructional voids within the core masonry from the so-called blue chambers they've apparently discovered. The questions and concerns I've outlined in this video, I believe, are all absolutely fair and valid. To make extraordinary bold claims on the most iconic archaeological site in the world does require extraordinary evidence. The team needs to silence the doubters, including me. And you don't do that by banning comments on your Facebook page after I listed these exact same questions on your posts at the weekend, because trust me, nobody wants this to be true more than me. If the claims made are real, they would be shattering, the greatest discovery in the history of mankind. But right now, we need absolute transparency about how the method works, and also how you interpreted the data, because now the team is also scanning the entire Giza Plateau, and they put this diagram into their press release. Apparently, we're looking at a south to north view of Giza, and look, all of these features follow the natural sloping bedding planes of the limestone. A Giza limestone that's been heavily weathered for millions of years and is now filled with caves, fissures, and faults. This new picture could well be geology. Looking at these scans of Giza, we do see a lot of vertical features, and to me, these clearly look like noise or artifacts of the scan. In my opinion, these are features, and this is noise. So, could the giant cylinders below the Khafre pyramid just be a zoomed-in view of this vertical noise? I don't know. At this point, I have to give my honest opinion and say that yes, okay, maybe the science is valid. I'm in no place to question that. But regarding the interpretation, I think we could well be looking at noise or nature. Share with us in the comments what you think of this episode. And if you like our content, support us by subscribing. You can watch other videos from our channel that address other topics about history and culture.